Good afternoon. I'm Deb Munson. I'm coming to you from my coop in the Driftless area outside of Stoddard, Wisconsin. Today I'm going to be giving you a brief demonstration on encaustic painting using alcohol inks, which is going to be displayed in my Floors of Motion series at the Viva Gallery for the month of September. Thanks for watching, and let's get going. First of all, Encaustic is a product that's made up of damar resin, which are these little hard rocks. They come from trees. It's a varnish. It melts. It's very sticky. It gives the bond to the hardening of the other component, which is the beeswax that is purified. So we come up with the encaustic medium when melted together at certain ratios that I buy like this, but when I make it, it comes out and looks like this. You take your medium and you melt it. The perfect temperature for melting the wax in the medium is 180 degrees. Here, I work on either an encaustic board such as this from Amsterdam, which you can buy online anywhere. I prefer to work on the birch 1.5-inch cradle boards that are also you can buy through Ampersand and get them at Lick online. For today's demonstration, I have already prepped a whiteboard from the Amsterdam panel. I'm going to show you on my wooden birch board how you would go about prepping this to start doing your colors on it. So let's get started. Let me just move this stuff around here. I tend to put this on another electric fry pan so the drips will go in here, and then I can reheat that wax because you want to try to resave it. It's very expensive. You're first going to want to give 3 to 5 coats of medium on your board to get it to suck in. I did 3 there. Now I'm going to go over it. Every time you do after the initial 3 on the board, you have to fuse any product that you put on this, so it will stick together and melt. I tend to use a benzoate torch. People use heat guns, cooking torches, different things. I prefer this method. So we're gonna let this just set for a second. It cools very, very quickly, as you can see. You can see that there's hot marks in it. Those will go away after you get enough layers on and the heat starts to push the wax, if you will, into those crevices. I'm going to give it another coat here. You always want to go back. You never want to go like this over it. You want to start at that other line and keep going. It's really bubbling on this. It's so hot right now. I'm going to let this cool. And while I'm doing that, what I'm going to do is show you part of how I make my floors in motion. First of all, I've mixed my encaustic colored waxes on my palette behind me, heated at 180 degrees. I'm going to just stroke up, stroke down, see what I can come up with. Just a little bit of green in there. I just want to get a base. I'm intending to do purple on this. My palette is going to be purple, an orange and a moss green when I get to my alcohol inks. And here I'm just gonna start making a flower. Get some base in there. And come back and do a little lighter. I'm gonna let that sit for a minute, and I'm gonna go back to my cradle panel and I'm gonna do one more coat on here. Again, we're gonna burn it. You need to go over the edges, back and forth. Again, let it cool. And you're gonna do that for as many times that you choose. I tend to always do 5, but you can do up to 10, 11, 15. It just depends on how thick you want it. If you're gonna do carving in it with pottery tools, the thicker the better. So I'm gonna set this aside and we're gonna work on what I just painted on here, a little bit of color. Now I'm gonna fuse this on here. You don't want to fuse it too heavy because it will move. So I have the base for my floor of motion. Now what I'm going to do next, I see a piece of hair in there, and I'm going to go and I'm going to get my little tool over here and I'm going to dig that hair out. We don't want any of those things from the brushes sticking in our art. We tend to pull it on one side and pull the hair out. That way it is easily mended either by rubbing it in, and eventually when you reburn it, it'll melt back together. I'm starting with an alcohol ink that's called an olive green moss, and I'm going to dot it. And I'm going to come by with the blow off duster to move the ink and make it kind of wild. We don't have a lot of control over it, but we have some. I'm not satisfied with that, so I'm going to go back in and add a little more down at the bottom. And I'm just going to push it up more towards the flower. I'm going to do one more here, a little thicker. I tend to have 2 blow-off dusters available because they do get cold. Now I'm going to put my purples in, which is, I'm using an alcohol ink called Amethyst. I'm just going to kind of go like that. I'm going to come back with my blower and I'm going to start pushing it around. That's looking kind of fun. I'm going to do it again. And let it breathe a little more. I'm going to add my orange. I love purple and orange together, and no, I am not a Bronco fan. You can see how their alcohol ink is moving, creating its own textures. I'm going to blow it in this pattern a little bit. And we'll see what we end up with. We'll let it sit just for a minute. You don't want to actually take your torch to it until it's dried a little bit. So this is what we're starting with. Once you start burning the alcohol ink, it's going to get finer. It's going to kind of do its own thing, but that's half the fun of this. I'm going to pull it up. You can see it's starting to make circles and crevices and different textures. Let's just see what happens. You don't want to get too close because you'll start pulling it like I'm doing it. You can move it and thin it out. If you don't like it, you can always scrape this away. You can create it to make its marks or not. I'm going to let this cool a little bit, a couple of minutes, or a minute, a few seconds. I'm going to come back to it with my greens, and I'm going to start making a loop here. And I want it to go more that way. Come back, and just be more careful, a little further away. I like that. And I'm going to come back in here with more purples. A little more orange over here. See what happens when you burn it too fast? It starts on fire. That's okay, we'll just let it cool down for a second. One of the things I'd like to show you, I am not going to be demonstrating it today, is not only do I burn with alcohol ink, I burn with shellac. It's normal shellac. You can use amber or clear. This actually happens to be a clear shellac. And I have tinted it with my pigments of paint to make it an ivory, more of a cream. I'm not going to do it today, but I can paint on this and give it 8 to 10 minutes to set up, but I have to take it outside, and it is kind of nasty outside raining, so I'm not going to do this today, but then I would burn it. When you're working with Encaustic, you're burning a lot of natural elements, but they are harmful if they start to smoke, and it could affect your lungs. So you can't see them, but you have to have in and out of fans going. Actually, you should have a ventifume, but they're quite expensive, and I have not invested in that quite yet. I think I'm going to go back and burn this some more and see where we go with this. Trying to push it, push it, push it. I want to get a little more narrow over here. A little more wild. A little less there. We're going to let it cool down just a little bit. There's some things I don't like about this, so I'm going to go scrape it back. Which with my little pottery hoop. One thing with Encaustic, you can always go back. If you don't like it, you can scrape it off. I just want to get rid of some of this over here. Make it smoother again. gonna thin here a little bit. Oop, a little too hot, I gouged. You gotta be careful. Alright. Rid of these over here. Now I'm going to bring my brush in and touch up on things where I think they need a little more love, a little more guidance, I guess. Do a little bit of that there, come over here, put some more purple in, kind of bring it down so it looks like it's all connecting. Do a little bit over here, kind of bring that over. Put a little bit more green right here. Give it a good glow a little bit, not a lot. Getting more texture in here. A little bit more webby. Forming my flower. Or my bouquet, however you want to look at it. Look how that webs up. I'm gonna bring this down a little bit. I'm not loving that. I think I can move it with the torch. I'm going to go and clean some of this up a little bit on the sides. Gonna fuse it. We'll let it just cool down a little bit here before I pick it up. And there's just an example of how I do my Floors in Motion series. Thanks for watching. I hope to see you at the Viva Gallery and checking out all my other artwork. Thank you.